It's going to be ALG in that first pick position, and immediately they take away the Terra. And this is a god that teams either seem to want to first pick or ban away as kind of a, yeah, this is good, but we're not that worried about it kind of ban.
I think Nero Ma has such a big god pool that he doesn't really care about some of these Terras or the Fafnir. Flashpoint, they need to ban out Fafnir to not allow Nero Ma to pick that one up. But his god pool is so diverse that it doesn't really matter whether or not he gets those two supports.
Could matter that Cyclone Spin just got Bologna. That could certainly matter for Dante the Fargo in that solo lane for Flashpoint. Interesting throwaway ban here from Allegiance. Nox targeting out Sheikah. He played that during the relegations, I believe during the SPL as well. So taking it away from the mid laner, and I suppose if you're looking to just give away a ban, basically just saying, yeah, we want one of these strong picks, and you can only ban away one now. Nox as good as any in that position is Khepri and Rom going to make up the duo lane for Flashpoint.
It's better than banning away the Arachne or the Anubis, right? You're
Sure.
actually banning away something that somebody plays instead. And Sheikah's going to have to figure out a different option moving forward. But Isis and Amaterasu here being locked in for Team Allegiance. Good mixture of early game and that late game. But this means that it's probably Nero Ma playing that Amaterasu support.
I would imagine so. Could be Bologna jungle, but no, I don't see a reason to take Bologna out of Cyclone Spin's hands. You don't want to give, there's no reason not to give one of the best characters in the game right now to a guy who can make the kind of impact that Cyclone Spin can. Flashpoint, they go to Mirage's Thanatos, a god that he's played a lot of, but hasn't always looked particularly comfortable in executing that god on a competitive level.
He has a very unique build whenever he plays this Thanatos, dating way back to Season 1 and Season 2 when he was known as the Dirty Bubble, actually.
Yeah.
But this time around, there's nothing dirty about his build this time. It's pretty clean.
Yeah, pretty meta these days. Certainly used to be a little bit different, but now seems to build pretty similarly to everybody else. Vomana going to be the selection there for Dante in the solo lane as Allegiance. Round out their draft was Susano and Kernanos. So 4 physical gods here for ALG. Does that worry you at all?
In this game, so far, no, not with Amaterasu's late game potential. For the mobility that she provides for her teammates is going to be enough to make up for that, because if the team fight's not going their way, she's going to run away.
That's true. You got that movement speed. Not only can she run away, but basically everybody on Allegiance can. Flashpoint, they finish it off with that Vulcan. Let's get right into it. Game number 1 between Team Allegiance and Flashpoint. FP trying to make sure that they can continue to grow, because as they mentioned on the desk, this is ShadowQ and Mirage, who are about to, who are been around. They drop 3 members, or 3 members leave, however you want to see it. And now they've got 3 rookies to work with.
Still trying to figure out their identity through the SPL splits. Flashpoint need to figure out ways to win these games. And so far with their draft, they've got a nice mixture of early game and late game as well. This Vulcan has been a staple pick for a lot of mid laners recently with the changes to his passive, giving you that additional movement speed, the additional MP5 once you start hitting some of these targets. And as a result, with such short cooldowns, it's very easy to be spam-centered around this god. And
you've got good objective steal potential, even over top of that circle of protection from that Yankee. And if Allegiance want to group up on that circle of protection in a team fight in the late game, then Sheikah can really make you pay with that Vulcan ultimate, as both junglers starting on that right-hand side of the map. Flashpoint pushed in that duo lane wave, and now coming to contest that purple buff from Allegiance.
A lot of golden experience going to be lost to both Niroma and Oceans, but at least they get their own red buff. Niroma not going to absorb any of the Archer experience, which is going to allow Oceans to hit level 2, preventing the purple invade from coming out, because they're still only level 1 on ShadowQ and Sops.
Only Oceans level 2 in that wave when this second wave hits, so good plays there, and ShadowQ immediately going to take quite a bit of damage from the ALG Hunter. But it is Flashpoint still ending up on top in terms of total clear, but not enough so to try and invade on that left side. It's going to be ALG just going back towards their own purple, while Flashpoint does the same.
And because Vulcan on Sheikah started to make the rotation around that dual lane, Oceans and Niroma was a little deterred from potentially invading, despite Oceans being level 3, whereas Sops was level 2, securing their own purple buff for themselves, and that should give them plenty of control here, because the red buff went in the way of Sheikah instead of Sops.
And Sheikah has that Bumba's Mask. He cleared that red buff all by himself. Thought about doing the back harpies as well, but wanted to clean up that mid wave just in case. Both mid laners have been left entirely alone throughout this early game. It's been that solo side that both junglers have really been prioritizing, and it's MetYankee who's got that slight advantage in XP, but that's to be expected when you have an Isis.
Yes, considering the Vulcan did share a little bit of experience as he pulled it towards the purple buff to help out Sobs and ShadowQ in the dueling. The Isis will hit level 5 first. Could look for a play off of that alone, and both of these junglers has just sat in that soul lane for so long. That's to be expected coming out of Weekend because, you know, it's just Weekend and Cyclone. They hold hands together in the jungle and in the soul lane in the early game, but I think Mirage has been sitting here just to make sure Dante LaFargo playing this Vamana doesn't get terribly far behind in the early game.
And now Sop's in trouble on this left-hand side. Ocean's gonna get the first blood for Allegiance. Now ShadowQ in trouble, still has the abduct, so he's gonna be safe. But Oceans takes advantage of that XP lead and gets the first blood. Now Weekend is here.
Weekend.
Sunder, Stormkata, dead. Second kill for Allegiance as the duo lane for Flashpoint falls early.
So clean performance thus far out of Weekend and the duo lane out of Allegiance. That's going to hurt the duo lane quite heavily out of Flashpoint because now it's going to be that 1 to 2 level separation gap between Sops and Ocean. These Oracles should be going the way of Team Allegiance on every single respawn as well. And Sheikah's just sitting there with his hands in his head, like, not like this.
You can't have that dual lane get too far ahead, especially whenever it's an Amaterasu support. Amaterasu support works because of the movement speed aura, because of the damage aura, and then of course a little bit of control with that silence and the ultimate being on such short cooldown. But whenever Amaterasu in the support role gets ahead, not only are all of those things still true, but that's also pretty significant damage in the early to mid game that you have to start worrying about.
And I think that this pick was also trying to shut down the Khepri, trying to lock him down. The ultimate from Nero Ma is going to guarantee stun ShadowQ, and that can be used to sunder him after the stun, and then any sort of other abilities to follow up, preventing the Scarab's Blessing from even going off potentially.
And again, I think I talked about this yesterday on the EU broadcast, but with Sunder being so prevalent, so many junglers picking up Sunder instead of Purification Beads at the beginning, I feel like the natural response from teams would be to go for heavy CC compositions to punish junglers that do want to go Sunder right away. As Cyclone Spin goes up right on top of Mirage, doesn't get a chance to steal that blue buff away. Mirage accidentally even picking it up by going into the Hovering Death right on top of where the buff fell.
He got a little bit of additional health from that Bumba's Mask from the Death side and finding the last hits onto that blue, but because of the immobileness out of Hovering Death, he couldn't really avoid picking up that blue buff, which is hurting Dante LaFargo in that laning phase that's already struggling against Cyclone Spin's Bologna, already a level behind.
And that's why, the kids watching at home, that's why you save your abilities to confirm a buff, because if Mirage had just used the Death Scythe to start off that camp and didn't have it up in time, that heal, that was a big burst heal that came through, not only from the Bumbas, as you mentioned, from the Death Scythe hitting and the Thanatos passive killing the minion at the same time. That was a lot of health that Mirage probably would have died without.
A lot of people don't realize this, but Thanatos can be quite a big nuisance in some of these team fights. You bait yourself in an awkward situation to be able to get off poke, and then you go clear out mid-Harpies, for example, really quick, and clearing out the Gold Fury at the 5-minute mark. Allegiance on top.
That's exactly what Isis does best, burning that objective, and again, synergizes beautifully with that Amaterasu support, not only because of the damage aura, but the Amaterasu passive, making a target that gets hits by 3 of her auto attacks take more damage from all sources. It's kind of like an objective Sunder, if you will.
Why not have more Sunders inside the God Kits? Nero Ma doing wonders here with his support Amaterasu thus far, being an absolute monster here, having to retreat from their own jungle side. Sops and ShadowQ struggling. They're 1 level behind their counterparts.
Yeah, and going back to what I was talking about earlier, Weekend's able to pick up Sunder because of this draft that Flashpoint has gone for, as Sheikah is in a bunch of trouble in the mid lane. Weekend must not have had Wind Siphon available, because if he pulls Sheikah in, I think that's a dead Vulcan. In fact, yes, just now coming off cooldown, a very long cooldown on that disruptive second ability for Susano. But there's no stuns on the side of Flashpoint, as Sheikah is in the wrong spot here. That Spirit Ball doesn't hit, but it doesn't matter. MetYankee's still going to get the kill. Mirage lands on a Weekend, and that's what I'm talking about. That stun sets it all up. Weekend's got no chance to get out of that, Tully.
No defensive relics for this jungler out of Team Allegiance. It's a very easy cleanup kill. Now Nero Ma dashing in. Nice revive from ShadowQ, keeping his jungler alive, but Nero Ma might have bit off more than he could chew as the soul laners made the rotation before Cyclone Spin.
Yeah, no chance for him to get out of that one. So it ends up being a 2-for-1 in that scenario for Flashpoint. Good answer back by a lot of the rookies on that squad. Dante still even has the teleport, so not going to lose too much in terms of farm on the right-hand side.
But the blue buff is about to respawn here for Flashpoint. Cyclone Spin could look to potentially invade that. Still about a level and a half is Cyclone Spin being able to really control these Fire Giant Elementals, being a distraction here, being able to really bully the early game.
Ooh, Dante's actually the one that gets the big Fire Elemental there, so slight victory for Flashpoint.
Cyclone Spin put his back towards the jungle side at a Flashpoint, expecting to clear out those elementals for free and then invade the blue buff afterwards, with Cyclone Spin and Weaken right here around the blue buff, as well as Neuromod. This blue buff, no contention from Dante LaFargo or his teammates, and this tower might go down right now.
Just not enough mana for Dante LaFargo to be there and contest. And again, that goes back to him losing the previous few blue buffs. Even though Flashpoint secured the last one, Mirage was the one to pick it up accidentally. So not enough mana for Dante LaFargo to fight, even with the numbers advantage. Shadowcue the focus for Met Yankee, at least for the moment, as Mirage and the rest of Flashpoint secure that speed, but it's Allegiance who secure the life. Actually, Allegiance secured the speed as well, so doubly bad there if you're rooting for Flashpoint. Mirage just not able to get the heal off. Maybe if he does secure that speed buff, he gets healthy enough to get up into the hovering death.
Not only that, the great zoning against Shadowcue, preventing him from getting in position to use that Scarab's Blessing. All the defensive options from Flashpoint have been stripped by the grouping up from Allegiance. They stripped away the blue, now they stripped away the speed. Their goal lead is now getting almost out of hand. 3,000, not even 9 minutes in, and 4,000 experience to boot.
Allegiance very clean thus far, and the draft just keeps getting better for me, because the more you think about the interactions, I mean, Met Yankee on this Isis. Isis is one of those characters that can make Shadowcue's life on this Khepri very, very difficult, because even something as simple as a silence, right as everyone else on Allegiance is about to kill a member of Flashpoint, is enough. That's why we see so many teams like to play Hunbats and things like that up against Khepri, because you can disrupt him as you're killing one of his teammates. But Met Yankee can do that job all on his own. Dante gets pulled out of his dash there. Sunder comes through, Typhoon as well, and the bludgeon just stomps down Dante. The big baby, doesn't matter how big he is. Cyclone Spin takes him down.
It's because of the Sunder that just has the increased amplification damage of every other source. Despite getting all those protections in the Colossal form for Dante LaFargo, it's not enough to survive against a maxed out bludgeon there.
And that's exactly what you have to expect if you're Flashpoint, is that Weaken is going to be on that right-hand side. Cyclone's going to try and get ahead, and that's where ALG's lead is going to really start to materialize. The problem for Flashpoint is that on the left side of the map, ALG's done the exact same thing. It's Oceans up in levels pretty significantly over Sops, a full level plus, as Sops just now hit level 10. And there's no wards on that right side of the map for Flashpoint. There is one ward by their own speed buff, but with the pathing that Weaken has been taking, that's not going to spot him out.
Not at all, and with Golfear respawning in about 10 seconds, Allegiance has an interesting idea of what they want to do. By having Cyclone Spin 1v2 in the Soul Lane, the rest of Allegiance is going to use this opportunity to secure themselves the Portal Demon.
Oh, Shega's ult's coming though, and that's going to go the way of Flashpoint. A good ultimate coming out of the Flashpoint's rookie mid laner, steals away that objective. Met Yankee never dropped his circle of protection, and Allegiance just couldn't drop the objective in time.
But this means that Met Yankee, with his own circle of protection available, could transition towards that Gold Fury. 750 gold is nice for Flashpoint, but Allegiance is about to get more than 1,000 off of this Gold Fury.
If they're able to secure it, that's the big question though. Dante is going to proxy that wave on the right-hand side to make sure that he is free to rotate if this Gold Fury does get pulled by Allegiance. Flashpoint also had the Oracle Vision there for the time being, and I think that's another reason why Allegiance wasn't quite as keen on pulling that objective. Sheikah having Sands of Time as well, that 10% CDR means that Earthshaker is going to come up a little bit sooner than it would normally.
Absolutely, and Mirage going for a Shifter Shield, whereas we've seen Hydra's Lament out of Weekend, still trying to be that heavy burst damage jungler, and the way he's been playing it, it makes a lot of sense. Allegiance now starting up the Gold Fury at the 11-minute mark, Circle Protection finally being used, and second Gold Fury going the way of Allegiance.
Exactly what you were talking about, Toli. As soon as Allegiance get an inch, they're able to take the Gold Fury so quickly. Dante's teleported in the wrong spot, my friend. Shadowcue does get the ultimate off in time to save his solo laner's life, and now Weekend is the one who's very low, can't juke out the execute. Mirage finds the kill. Sheikah's ultimate's in a different area code than the rest of Allegiance. They don't even have to worry about it, as now Cyclone stuns 2 with that Eagles rally. Good damage coming out of Metyeki as well. Sheikah very, very low. He just escapes. No, the reflective mirror over the wall. Neilma with the kill. Snipes from Sops. Needs the third. Can't quite find it. A 3-for-1. Allegiance continues the siege.
There was a nice execute onto Weekend, but it's going to be a nicer objective for Team Allegiance on the tier 1 tower, securing themselves a Gold Fury previously. The speed or the blue is not available for them to strip away, but that's a lot of gold that they just received after those 2 objectives.
Tons of gold, without a doubt. And Weekend is sitting at level 11 right now, has been 2 of the 3 deaths for Allegiance. And again, a lot of that going back to the Sunder pickup instead of the Purification beads at level 1. But now that he's level 12, he's going to be able to back and get those beads. So it's going to be even harder for Flashpoint to exploit this mobile jungler who really has just been taken advantage of again because he didn't have the beats.
It could also be the Aegis Amulet, actually, just to avoid the execute coming out of Mirage. We see even Cyclone Spin going for the second relic, and look at this. Weekend picking up the Aegis Amulet just to prevent that execute. It's such a crucial opportunity, because as long as Weekend chooses the right timing to be able to get in and out of action, he has to avoid Shadow Q's control more than anything else. If he gets hit by a random meatball, then okay, that's bad positioning on terms of Weekend's fault, but he can control how far away he is from Shadow Q.
Exactly, and Meatball is one of those slower abilities, and Susano is one of the fastest characters because even with his two mobility abilities, once those are down, he gets increased movement speed after that, so good luck catching him. Sops throws down a ward. The Weekend's going to immediately counter on that left side.
Did you just throw a regular ward?
Oh no, it is a regular ward. He's got a sentry in his inventory, but decided not to use it.
Maybe he accidentally tried to use the sentry ward. He's like, well, I'm not going to throw both of my wards here just to counter this ward. But either way, recognizing that ward is there, it's going to prevent any sort of ganks in the dual lane for the time being. Weekend's going to back to base here, and I love this Aegis Amulet pickup for him. He's going to be able to survive very easily against Mirage, who's completed now the Shifter Shield, getting even more physical power for his Death Size.
Oceans has a big power spike right now. Not in terms of the actual power numbers, because he's got very little in his build. Really only the Bluestone and the Boots providing outright power, though Iqbal does, and when you factor in the passive, as Sheikah uses his ultimate to secure his own red buff in that scenario. Smart play out of him. No problems with that. But this Fatalis for Oceans. Fatalis used to be picked up in this slot all the time during Season 4. Third item, perfect time for the Fatalis. But after the change, much more expensive. You also get a little bit more attack speed. Usually seen as more of a luxury item, but Oceans felt comfortable going for it early.
I think it could also be because he's playing Kernanos. Honestly, you're having a lot of different options whenever you change the seasons between lifesteal, penetration, or physical power, so you don't necessarily have to worry about too much in your itemization, especially if somebody else on his team picks up the Shogun's Kusari for even more attack speed, but that's not the case thus far. Could be an option, though, that Niromaya uses.
Cyclone Spin is staying on this right side, whereas the rest of Allegiance is grouping on the left. Dante is hovering in that mid lane, but he's not going to get to that tier 1 tower in right in time. That's going to go down in favor of Allegiance. Dante just going to push that wave into the mid tower and force Allegiance back from that left side. Not going to get 500 gold of his own, but does set up a good position for Flashpoint to try and take that tower in the future.
This is more of the Season 2 Cyclone Spin that we've been known to seeing. Him 3 levels ahead of his counterpart, Dante Lafargo, struggling on this Vamana for good reason too, because Bologna is not a very easy matchup for Vamana, but it's also Weekend just assisting Cyclone Spin in that lane. That 2v2 early on, Mirage versus Dante Lafargo couldn't really do much.
Exactly what I was about to say there, Toli. It's no surprise to me that Cyclone Spin looks like Season 2 Cyclone Spin when he's got a Season 2 jungler right there next to him in Weekend. Weekend gonna poke out Dante, accidentally pull the Fire Giant and eat 112 damage for his troubles, but Dante's the one who got the ward cleared off of that Fire Giant Portal Demon.
Still looking for more action in the solo lane. Even Mirage right around the corner, but Cyclone Spin doesn't care. He's just going to keep on battling. He has the Scourge for the health return. Going to even use the Eagles Rally. He tried to hit Dante Lafargo there, but it's going to connect onto Mirage instead. Still trading ulti for ulti, though.
Cyclone didn't have the Sunder in that scenario, so maybe if he does, That could have been a kill, even 2v1, but it took a 4-man rotation to stop Cyclone's aggression, and Sops is in trouble on the left. Oceans in some more, though. Silence is good from Met Yankee, but the Sunder's gonna do it anyways. Dante finds the kill onto Oceans, 1-for-1 thus far. Good control coming out of Allegiance, and Dante's gonna fall to Met Yankee, his 4th kill of the game, while Neoma tries to handle 3 by the red buff.
Mirage goes into hovering depth, finding a stun onto Nero Ma, forced to retreat. The Earth Shaker not gonna matter. Cyclone Spin in the backline, cleaning up Mirage, and now Sheikah gonna get revived by Shadowq for a little bit, but Met Yankee's looking for the stun.
I'm not sure how much has really helped him. Totally great Spirit Ball coming out of Met Yankee, finds the 4th kill. Shadowq likely to be the deicide as Cyclone chases him down and squishes the bug with the hammer. Allegiance finds all 5 members of Flashpoint, and they continue to strip away their jungle.
This is the Allegiance that needs to come out every single game. Just such a great performance out of Weekend, controlling the pacing of the game despite having a scoreline of 1, 2, and 9. He set up Cyclone Spin pretty well as Oceans here, making a huge impact with his start with Nero Ma playing this aggressive Amaterasu support.
Sops, even by stealing away the speed buff, cannot catch up to Cyclone Spin, and again, that was all in the name of distraction as the rest of Allegiance took away their 3rd Gold Fury of the game. Allegiance has been successful in a composition that is very similar. This is their 2nd time we've seen them run this Isis in the mid lane and really exclusively focus on objectives. And if clearly Flashpoint wasn't ready for it.
It doesn't seem, though, at all, because this Vulcan Thanatos, it's also the combination of Thanatos staying in the soul lane for too long. This is not something that Thanatos wants to do. Thanatos needs to be looking for some plays of his own to be trying to get somebody low enough in that execute threshold, maybe even get them low enough to utilize that passive movement speed that he gets. The Vulcan ultimate being used on the Portal Demon, assuming Allegiance was on it.
You were saying how much you liked the Aegis Amulet pickup for Weekend. And I think every single member of Allegiance actually has an Aegis Amulet.
Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, all 5, including Neoma, including Cyclone Spin. Met Yankee started with it and then went Sprint in that 2nd relic slot. I love this idea from Met Yankee. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that Oceans has already built Fatalis.
And not only that, they already have Amaterasu on Nero Ma, so you have a decent amount of movement speed anyway. It's a little bit of overkill. I would have liked to see it maybe if Met Yankee was playing a Soul, Chronos, something like that, to really utilize the gas pedal effect, because he actually even upgraded the sprint.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, is that gas pedal is lost on Oceans. Yes, it gives him the extra movement speed, but doesn't really matter for the auto attack penalty being removed because he already has the Fatalis, as Allegiance claim yet another objective. This time it's the Portal Demon. Sops did do a good job split pushing, gets Flashpoint 500 gold on the left side of the map, but now Allegiance trying to answer back in that mid lane, 4 members strong, trying to find a pick.
And Cyclone Spin is not going to allow Sops to rejoin the action quite yet. He's forced to walk back to that tier 2 instead of backing to base, and he could get cut off here, but no, going the safe way instead.
Good pathing there out of Sops, certainly very dangerous there for the new Hunter for Flashpoint. You can see how much damage that Met Yankee's doing already in this game. He doesn't have a whole lot of items, 3 completed, but plenty of penetration between the Dynasty Plate Helm and the boots. And the Bancroft's Talon, just tons of damage.
Grouped up in the dual lane, the tier 1 tower is going to be the next objective that Allegiance is going to be looking at here. Flashpoint needs to find a way to hold on to this, but the way they're grouped up, it doesn't seem that they're even wanting to defend this. Instead, grouped up around the tier 2.
And the Gold Fury is due to respawn in about 2 minutes, so Allegiance probably not going to hang around on this left side for quite that long, though. With red buff respawning, that's a free invade, and the Oracle's coming up soon as well. Dante LaFargo loses his dash because of the good silence from Met Yankee and immediately has to go into the ult. Cyclone Spin technically extending the duration of this with that Mystical Mail, but I don't really think he cares very much. Now Weekend pulls him in, surprised to not see the full commit there without Dante having his ultimate.
But still going to be able to put pressure on this tier 2 tower. Cyclone Spin going to absorb some of these tower shots while Oceans pots down some shots. The Vulcan ultimate coming through, not connecting onto anybody. Dante LaFargo eating that Spirit Ball, and Allegiance going to reset for round 2.
And look at how healthy all of Allegiance is. Really no damage onto any of them. The only worry is Met Yankee's mana's a little bit low. There's a sprint pop, 3-man stun coming out of Cyclone Spin. Dante controlled and knocked down very low, but the ultimate out of Shadowq will stop the aggression onto him. but that means nothing to save Shake's life. Both relics not enough to save the mid laner there, as another kill goes Allegiance's way. 14 in total. Another tower goes Allegiance's way. Only 2 left on the map, and it looks like another objective could go their way as well. This one being the Fire Giant.
Very clean Fire Giant here. Nobody from Flashpoint around the corner. Allegiance have just extended their lead so incredibly quickly. Already over 11,000, almost 12,000 gold. Not even 22 minutes into the game, and with themselves a Fire Giant here, those last 2 remaining towers are certainly going to fall, extending that to about 15,000.
Quite a hill to climb for Flashpoint, and this is, as I mentioned on the desk, this is another one of those learning experience games that you have to understand. You know, like you mentioned, Mirage probably in that solo lane for a little bit too long, has to just understand that Dante is going to lose that matchup. There's not a whole lot he can do about it. As soon as you see an ice on the enemy team, you have to be worried about objectives. And these are the growing pains that a team like this with 3 rookies is going to go through.
Why not try to shut down the early game ISIS if you're Mirage playing the Thanatos, instead of just trying to sit in the lane and farm, like you said before, having to readjust some of his game plans, because it seemed like Flashpoint was trying to play Allegiance's game instead of their own.
Exactly, and that, again, one of those lessons that you have to learn as a new team, to just stick to what you want to do well instead of trying to worry about what the opposition is going to do to you. As the 4th Gold Fury goes down in Allegiance's favor. Still a little bit delayed on pushing down these towers. Ocean's in base, still waiting, probably waiting to finish off an item, and there it is. The Wind Demon is going to be the pick. Probably going to sell that Bluestone Pendant shortly enough to buy tier 3.
I like we haven't seen Wind Demon in quite a while here from a lot of these hunters, but still very diverse in a lot of these different builds. Actually going to be the Poison Star after the Rage, already having 1 stack on that Rage. After winning another team fight, we'll try to max out that crit potential, but Poison Star is going to slow down members quite heavily here, which is interesting because Cyclone Spin already has the Frostbound Hammer, so in order to slow down members even further and their attack speed is not necessarily something that Oceans has to do, but it's just another form of self-peel in case Dante LaFargo gets on the loose.
That's what we get for assuming, Tolly. You know what they say about, I'm not going to ask you that question. Right side tower already below, right around half HP. Cyclone Spin is the only one on this right side, though. He's got the teleport available. The rest of Allegiance, they're trying to find that tier 2 tower on the left. Weekend's found Sops in that mid lane, but ShadowQ's here to provide support. Execute from Mirage, not on the mark, but Aegis was there for Weekend anyways. Snipe's not there from Sops either. A lot of ultimates used, and Weekend, knowing Weekend, he's just laughing about how much he got in that mid lane.
He's too fast. It's a speed buff Susano with all his cooldowns not available. I think that's like 4% movement speed per ability on cooldown. So he's getting 16% extra movement speed on top of that speed buff, making it so difficult to hit abilities that you're normally used to hitting with your eyes closed.
Now a Spirit Ball not going to hit there from Met Yankee. Cyclone Spin, he took down that tier 2 on the right, while everyone from Flashpoint chased Weekend around. No towers left remaining, only Phoenixes. ShadowQ in some troubles. Neilma the first one in underneath the Phoenix. Circle of Protection down. There's that Vulcan ultimate, does a decent amount of damage, but the heal's gonna come through and pop everyone back to full HP. But even despite that whole duration, not enough tower damage to knock down the Phoenix. Oceans doesn't have any flat penetration in this build, and it really shows, doesn't get a chance to knock down the Phoenix.
Problem with Cyclone Spin wasn't in position either. He was too busy on the right-hand side. Spread being proc. The Eagles rallying the backline. Stops getting stunned out. Forced to go into the Aegis and run away. ShadowQ gonna revive himself. The Typhoon gonna knock up 2 members, but finally Cyclone Spin diving and finding Sops.
He's all the way in the Titan room. Dante trying to make life difficult for Met Yankee, but he's gonna be the one to turn and run. Mirage finally kills someone in that Titan room. It's Oceans who gets punished for his transgressions. The Cyclone Spin uses that Aegis to save his life. Nice double pull coming out of Weekend. Repositions Mirage and Dante. Dante escapes, Mirage does not. Met Yankee punishes ShadowQ. Now 3 dead for Flashpoint. But Allegiance has 4 members with no ultimates. They don't want to continue this siege.
Still without Oceans, making it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be to find the kill onto the Titan. Both 2 middle Phoenixes, the mid and the right side Phoenix remaining for Flashpoint. So that's the goal for Allegiance here, to try to knock down these 2 Phoenixes before ending the game. Fire Giant is about to respawn also in 35 seconds.
Almost there, but even without Oceans, Allegiance gonna go for this one. Shake's ultimate not gonna hit. Weekend looks to play aggressive, but is tagging up that Phoenix. He's falling low, and Sops is gonna guarantee it. That's his 2nd kill. of the game. Flashpoint successfully defend their right side Phoenix.
Just too aggressive now. Allegiance, they're not playing as cleanly as they were earlier on now, finding these two unnecessary deaths. Ocean's dying on the left, Weekend dying on the right. Fire Giant's about to respawn in 12 seconds, and Weekend won't necessarily be alive for it. However, Flashpoint can't really try to force it either, despite having a 5-on-4 advantage for these 30 seconds.
Portal Demon getting low. Matt Yankee is going to use his ultimate to try and confirm it, and it goes Allegiance's way. Cyclone spins in there without an Aegis. Great Spirit Ball out of Matt Yankee, stuns out multiple, and Neilma also helping out the solo laner. Cyclone just able to jump away. Dante LaFargo wishes he had a jump because he's dead. Now Oceans came through the portal and is tearing it up by the Fire Giant. Double kill for the Hunter. Mirage doesn't hit the execute again. Oceans dashes out of it. Triple for Oceans. Almost finds the quad. Neilma finds Mirage as Sops tries to punish the support. But Matt Yankee's here, low on mana, but enough to force Sops back. Flashpoint just cannot handle the Allegiance Hunter.
Just great control from Matt Yankee with the stuns, with the silences. The ultimate from Niruma came in clutch there to save Cyclone Spin's life for quite a long time there. And once Oceans made the rotation with that Wild Hunt, deterred everyone else from Flashpoint away, finding some very easy kills here. He just rushed in there with his dash and crit everybody.
Fire Giant goes down. Oceans isn't going to have it, so slightly disappointing there if you're rooting for Allegiance, but either way, the other 4 members, they've all got it for the full duration. So they're going to strip away the last remaining jungle on this right side. Speed buff goes to Weekend. Blue buff going to be on the ground waiting for somebody to pick it up. As Flashpoint have to defend their middle and right side Phoenixes. They don't want any chance to come back in this one. Allegiance still has plenty of towers remaining though, Toli. Only 1 tower has been taken off the map, and that's all the way in the duo lane.
Still having to defend the left side as well from these Fire Minion Shakers in position to do so. Sops getting his own red buff. Niruma and Matt Yankee could make this rotation, but not going to be there quite in time, waiting for the rest of their teammates to regroup before wanting to secure some of these objectives. And that's what you need to do as a 5-man Fire Giant unit. Just wait for your team, because if you get picked off there, now you kind of wasted your own Fire Giant, and it's going to be very easy for Flashpoint to try to defend.
Mid-Phoenix group up here for Allegiance. They've got every relic they could want outside of Cyclone Spin's teleport. As that Thunder comes up, Cyclone gonna be the first one in underneath that Phoenix. Dante LaFargo trying his own on the front side of Shake. His ultimate comes through and does some decent damage there to Met Yankee. Dante's keeping the Phoenix alive for the time being. Don't know if he can keep himself alive though, as Oceans starts to tear through him. Great spear ball on Met Yankee, and Oceans finds the crits on the Sops. No chance to get up into his ult in that scenario. Oceans with his 6th kill of the game. Weekend trying to get out of range of that execute, will do so successfully. Mirage looking mid. Matt Yankee with a well-timed Aegis stops that damage from coming through, and Oceans with another kill for Allegiance. This late game Karanos is just too much for Flashpoint to handle.
Weekend still hovering around the left side. Once Mirage committed towards the mid, left side Phoenix falling. Shaker barely able to escape back to his fountain. Middle Phoenix going to be aggressed on Dante LaFargo. Not going to get stunned out with 2 Phoenixes down. Fire Giant on 4 members from Allegiance. They're looking to close things out, but there's no more waves. Hold that thought. Left side, there is 1 wave, but it's not enough to really allow Allegiance to go into the Titan room yet.
A little bit of hesitation right now from ALG as Weekend thought about teleporting to that jet stream. Shaken, no relics. Could have been a kill potential there, but instead the call is to go for this last Phoenix on the right. Neilma still full HP and has no problem silencing out Dante. Double knock up there from Weekend as well. The Phoenix being focused down, except for Oceans, who continues to chase into the Titan room. The rest of Allegiance more worried about the objective, and they're going to secure it. But this did allow enough time for Flashpoint's entire roster to respawn. And with 5 members still there and fairly healthy, Allegiance doesn't feel comfortable going for the win.
Niruma, though, half health or so. Fire Giant around their waist for another minute and 10 seconds. They're going to try to catch somebody out of position. They're going to pull Shadow Q into his stun, forcing Scare's Blessing on himself. Vulcan ultimate over the top, connects onto 2, but it's not too much damage. Circuit protection doesn't matter.
Not in time. Mayagi did a fall, but Oceans is running amok. Another kill for the Hunter. Could be a double here, but Weekend's going to be the one to get it. Cyclone stuns out Sops. His Aegis is only going to last for a moment. Oceans notches his double digits. 10 out of Allegiance's 27, and they're going to take game 1 in 31 minutes over Flashpoint.
27-8. Allegiance, they looked so clean in the beginning of the